This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
Hello, everybody. We're going to get started here shortly. Going to let a few more people pop on, but I'm going to play my theme song that Carmen, many of you know, Carmen wrote, and Health and Wealth put the music together. So I'm very excited about that. So I'm going to play a little bit of that song as we wait for some people to come in. And hello, Jason.
Hello.
In God, we trust. Can you guys hear that, Jason? Stand up. Speak out.
Yeah, it's a little soft, but I can hear it.
Let me turn it up a little bit. In a world that's tired and dirty,
where the truth gets pushed aside, where the voices in the darkness, where the fire will not from the pews to the streets, we're rising with our hands and hearts held high. This is more than just a moment. This is freedom's battle cry. No more silence, no more fear. We were born for times like these. This is the revival. Hear the people call. Freedom standing tall. We will not fall. We rise together. One and all. Stand and speak out fear. Let's escape this world. This is the revival. And we won't back down. No, we won't back down. From the kitchen tables praying to the streets where justice cries, with a backbone to this nation, with conviction in our eyes. We remember who we are and the price of liberty. My hate will open courage to defend what must stay free. And in heart to heart, this is where the healing starts. This is the revival. Hear the people come, standing tall. We will not fall. We rise together. One and all. Stand, speak out fear. Let's shake out this world. This is the revival. And we won't back down. No, we won't back down. Well, yeah. We are mothers, we are fathers, we are workers, we are strong, we are praying mixed in action, and we've waited far too long. This is love, this fight for children, this is faith that never dies, this is America's deliverance. What a praise! This is the revival. Feel the ground now shake. We won't break. We choose our way with courage.
All right, guys, I was going to play a little bit of that. So I don't want to take a lot of Jason's time because I know we're here for about an hour, hour and a half. But welcome, everybody. Welcome to the Revival of America podcast. If you don't know who I am Jenny. I am the owner and the host. That song was written by Carmen, and the music was put in by Health and Wealth. So many of you see us probably in here with Jason in a lot of these spaces, either speaking or being co-host. So I wanted to play that and give it some light. And that will be my theme song moving forward at the beginning of my shows. So today my guest is Jason with 3D Response Systems. If you guys don't know who Jason is, please get familiar with Jason because he is out there doing really God's work when it comes to our children and the schools. So he has a system in place that he is uh, putting in for schools for safety, right? He's protecting our kids while they are at school. So I'm going to let Jason, once I give you a little bit of more PSAs about where you can find my podcast, I'm going to let Jason give you a little bit a synopsis of who he is and how he got into this, and then talk about his 3D response systems for you guys. But real quickly, the Revival of America is being listened to in over 100 countries. You can find us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Anchor, Apple, Google, Breaker, Pocket Cast, Podbean, Riverside, Amazon Music. My social medias are Jenny Jareed Facebook, at Jenny_Jareed right here on X, at JJareed Rumble, at JJareed True Social, at JJareed Instagram, the Revival of America on Telegram, and then the Revival of America over on YouTube. So yes, everybody, I'm bringing a lot of great guests. We're not the typical echo chamber of podcasts. We're bringing on guests. My podcast is about the guest voices as well as the audience's voices. So I integrate your guys' voices in with the guests because many of you have reached out to me, you guys want to be heard. Your voices matter. So remember, everybody, stand up, speak out, be heard. That's my tagline. Your voice matters. Don't be shy to ask any questions to myself or Jason. We are here for you. We are here for the movement, and we are here especially for our children. So with that, I'd like to welcome Jason to the stage. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And if you guys don't mind reposting this space, get some more people in here. I think it's really imperative for people. If you don't know, you don't know, right? But Jason has a very incredible system that he's going to talk to you about. And I would really love for more people to get in here and listen to it, because it's going to be something here in the very near future. And he's already installing these systems, but to be able to protect our children when they're at school. So Jason, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit of your background, how you got into us, and what you're doing with the 3D response system and the successes.
So just retired last June after 30 years in law enforcement. Within that 30 years, I worked patrol. I got selected to be the school resource officer for a school that housed around 2,000 kids, maybe a little more. I did that for a few years. During the midst of that, I was in the school from, I think I started in 2001, 2002. So it was shortly removed from Columbine, but right in the middle of 9/11. And then I ended up going to some briefings on some terrorism stuff with the FBI on some threats to schools, and that kind of sparked my interest that we're not really training on anything for keeping our kids safe if a threat is exposed in the building. So I kind of took the initiative and started on my own to train the staff and our police officers on a tactical response to a threat. I taught that for probably the next 10 years or so, but I think it was 2014-ish, 2013, somewhere in there, I completely decided to, I was working in undercover narcotics at the time, but I was still doing the active shooter instructors, and I just said, I'm not doing it anymore. The reason being, I was telling my kids to do one thing, but then teaching something else, because in my heart, I didn't believe in it, that run, hide, fight was effective in any way, shape, or form. So I refuse to teach it. I don't even like listening to it. At the end of the day, the numbers of lives being saved with that response is not getting better. To me, it's a broken record, and we need to move past that. The reason that I say that is because the building doesn't support the response for the teachers, the kids, or the cops responding. There's literally no tools for them whatsoever. So me and my current business partner, Peter Matos, we decided to, we spoke to each other, and we were like, nobody's doing anything about this. And both of us being in law enforcement, it's just kind of in our nature to want to fix things, especially keeping kids safe. So we decided to take the training we knew and the response that we knew and put it on steroids and provide tools for that response. So after about 5 years of research development and trial and error, we finished our system, we got it patented, and we stood back and took about a 20,000-foot view at it. And what we recognized was we basically created the fire suppression system. And the similarities were right in our face. Now, we didn't set out to do that, but for a tactical response, it just ended up that way. So we looked at the fire suppression system, which is basically multi-layered. It's not just sprinklers. It's a combination of a bunch of things to get the fire department there faster, provide them tools, but also give the tools in a keep it simple, stupid fashion for the teachers and the kids under stress that they can actually utilize. And since it's been implemented in 1958, not one child has lost their life to a fire in our buildings. So fire truly got it right. And it's a response that came from fire experts. It wasn't a response that came from educators or politicians. It was kind of a grassroots thing on they know what will keep you alive during a fire. And this topic that we're talking about, it always goes to guns. It's either arm everybody or let's get rid of guns. And that massive divide has literally been the chokehold on moving forward with anything that's considered progress. And we need to stop that conversation. When we started this system, we never had in the back of our mind, let's arm everybody. And we never had in the back of our mind, let's get rid of guns altogether. To me, this isn't a political issue. This is a do what's right issue. And we have shown over and over again, a student population over 2,000 kids within 60 seconds. All the kids are protected with cover, concealment, ongoing communication in the school, and the kids are safe. Within 60 seconds, that's pretty unheard of to secure a building of that size that quickly. So that's kind of where it was. That's kind of where we're at now. We are installed in multiple schools in Minnesota. Just getting busy with some Catholic schools after the Annunciation shooting, which is ironic in itself that they wait until there's dead children before they do something, but at least they're getting on now. So we also got this year's session coming up. There's a bill called the SHIELD Act. It's HF 15 that is going to be on the floor for making it building code. So that's kind of what's going on with me up here and my story.
I love it. Thank you, Jason. Well, I'm looking at your website here, and can you kind of tell? It looks like it's pretty intricate. It's pretty cool. It looks like, the security system, like the windows they can't break. It's got like a lock, like a keypad lock. It's got a button for you to push to get the police attention. Is that correct? So can you maybe kind of tell the people how it's installed? What is it all about? Like, I mean, obviously we're trying to protect our children, but it's pretty intricate. I see these sliding doors. Like I said, the glass, if you hit a bat with it, doesn't break. So can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So first off, it's not just the act of, we look at the before, the during, and the after. So on the before side, we've partnered with, her name is Michelle. She owns a psychology clinic called Life Development Resources. And I've worked with her for years in law enforcement, and she just made sense to bring in because her office gets all the court-ordered violent children that are homicidal, suicidal to work with them. So that the prevention side is its own little thing, but that's just as important as the actual tools we put in the school. So the tools we put in the school, it's really the only tactical response that I see. And we took what we knew, and when you're involved in a shooting, whether you're military or law enforcement, one of the first things that you need to look for in that moment is cover. And I've seen some interesting stats on, if you're involved in a shooting and you have cover, your chance of survival is over 85%. If you don't have cover, your chance of survival drops down to about 18%. So we're literally providing no cover for these children or teachers whatsoever. So we provide them that cover, and we don't make it look like a prison. Everything is very, very well hidden. You can't even see it's there. Basically, the cover is ballistic panels that are mounted in the walls. They're also put into features that can be pulled out of the walls. They can be used as whiteboards to utilize every day in your classroom. So it's a usable feature. The kids don't know it's ballistic. We also enhance the windows. We throw another layer in there, which is 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure on your door. Each classroom would have a police button, and it card readers, no keys, lanyards for open areas. We create a command center within the building to provide communication to the school. We have a suspect identification system that also provides a bright yellow spray if somebody's trying to pull a Tennessee or a Sandy Hook and shoot their way through the doors. They can be blasted with a bright yellow powder and marked, and also provides concealment for the person on the inside. We look at the building as a whole. And a lot of things I see going on now, what districts are spending money on, like AI and the talk about, metal detectors. The problem with those things, they're just fancy alert systems, and they don't provide a response. So if you think about a bad thing happening, the question is, how do you respond? Well, those things don't give you the response; they just give you an alert. So we're not providing any tools for the kids, to get safety and get that response. So I'm a big believer in keep it simple, stupid. AI and metal detectors are not 100% reliable. And I don't want my kids or your kids or anybody's kids being subjected to death without a fighting chance. And we walk through and we customize our system to that building. It's not a cookie cutter. And we start from the inside and work out. We do not start from the outside and work in, which is another mistake I see people doing is focusing on single point entry and visitor management way too much and not giving the tools to the teachers. And then the aftermath, we get into how to restore peace, reunification processes, staging areas, and all the resources that would be dumped on a school's lap if something like this should ever happen. So it's the before, the during, and the after is what we provide.
So you were talking about what was her name? Is she a counselor? Is that what she is? What was
Yeah,
it again? Okay.
Yep, she's also licensed. She's I think CSTAC and all these other FBI acronyms to deal with threat assessments.
So is she somebody that would maybe help with the kids, like in the aftermath, you know, because a lot of kids, you know, when they go through this, obviously it's pretty traumatic.
Yes, if we're installed, they're going to get a team, and she can bring up to, I think it's 40 counselors to go to those schools and set up counselors availability for families and kids.
I love that. I love that. Thank you, Jason. And it looks like here on your website, it's got preventative and risk management, active threat mitigation, post critical event management. It looks like you guys, obviously, as you're talking about, it's different stages of this whole process. Correct?
Yeah, I mean, I've investigated over 60 active shooter threats, either directly or oversaw the investigation. And that process onto itself, and not many people know how much work goes into the beforehand when something as simple as a threat comes in. And like I said, over 60 threats I've investigated, I think we averaged about 5 legitimate shooting or bomb threats on an annual basis in the district that I was working in. And that's just one city. So these threats are extremely common, and the general public really never hears about them unless it reaches a certain level.
Thank you, Jason. All right, everybody. If you guys have some questions for Jason, please feel free to raise your hand. I will unmute your mic. Norfolk, I saw that you sent me a message. Did you have a question for Jason? If so, request a mic and I will unmute your mic. But yeah, Jason, if you want to continue talking a little bit more about it until we get some hands. And everybody, his website is www.3dresponse.com/system. So can you talk about some of your successes? Because I know you have these already installed in some of the schools throughout the country. And can you tell us a little bit about some of that and the successes that you had with it?
So the first district that we got installed in, and this is, it's a success, but it's also a frustration. So the superintendent was a retired lieutenant colonel in the Army with multiple deployments. And so he's kind of a unique breed when it comes to your doctorate level educators, that he had military background with his whole adult life. He walked through the private school that we were installed in, and he walked out and all he said was this will work. Well, keep in mind, he was in charge of setting up bases in the Middle East and making sure his soldiers were safe. So he got it. And the one thing that he wanted to do was basically, in his tenure, the thing that kept him up at night was having dead children under his watch. So he wanted to make sure that he left this district the safest he possibly could have, and he did so. Now you go to a different school and you get a completely different point of view from these professional educators that have never even taken a class on it. And that's why I think we see from coast to coast, you see school district A with, in quotation, security system, A, and then you go next door and it's a different security system, but it's all based upon the perception of the school board and the superintendent. Until we actually define what school safety is, we're going to see a modge-podge of different designs. And we've defined everything else in our society, whether it be car safety, seatbelts, airbags, lane sensors, all that stuff is regulated. You have to have it. The fire safety, the fire code. OSHA has laws for workplace safety. This is the one topic that we have not defined on what is school safety. And that's, in my opinion, the missing piece is we need to define it and get it out there. But right now it's a battle. We're stuck in this wash, rinse, repeat. You have dead kids, you have a day or two of grieving, and then you have 4 months of a gun control debate or gun debate. And we just need to get guns out of this conversation. It's been hanging it up for too long.
Amen. Amen. It's not guns that kill people, it's the person behind it, right?
According to my dog, yes.
Okay, so another question that I have. So when it comes to the school board, what kind of pushback are you seeing, whether it be with the school board or the government in general? I don't know. Have you had any pushback in regards to those guys?
Oh, definitely. Yes. Again, that mindset goes from not only politicians, but on down the line on the guns always comes up, and or artificial intelligence. There's this latest craze that they just kind of keep up with the Joneses, that they do, but they want to do it for the lowest bottom dollar. So they'll get a bunch of what I call squeaky wheels, meaning parents come and say, what are you doing for school safety? And as long as they can appease their constituents, they'll do it for as cheap as possible. I was told that if the fire code wasn't installed, most educators would take their chances on it not happening here. And I tell them, well, hope is not a good plan. But we were training over 60 cops on response with our system last year, and I had one of the school board members show up, and I've never met her before, and she came there with an agenda. She did not think all this was needed, and she really wouldn't even let me talk. And I was showing her in live time with our system and without, and all she could bring up was there was an autistic child that pushed a button in one of our schools, and the cops were there within 60 seconds, and the school was a ghost town. So from my point of view, it worked great. But from her point of view, her daughter went there, and it scared her to death and traumatized her. And the story molded into the SWAT team showed up in their Bearcat, and there was officers in camo with long guns, and they scared the hell out of all these kids. And I said, that's not true. And she goes, yes, it is. Asked the superintendent. And I said, ma'am, with all due respect, I was the lieutenant of investigations at the time. I would be the person to make that call. I was there that day, and the SWAT team was not there. We had a 3-officer response to it, determined it was false, and they left. They were literally there for maybe 3 minutes. But they had the story all conjured up, and then I concluded it with, do you know that she's all about threat assessment? And I said, do you realize the last 10 shootings didn't even involve the student of the building? They didn't even know this person existed. So how do you do a threat assessment on somebody you don't even know exists? So I ended up telling her, no offense, but your head's in the sand, and you need to pull it out and get in with reality.
You're a lot nicer than I would have been. I would have said something else, but hey.
But
so
that was my
that was your thought process.
Yeah.
So how many schools through the U.S. are you currently in?
20. 1, 2, 3. I think 17 actually installed, 3 signed contracts, 2 pending contracts.
And that's pretty good. How long have you been doing this?
Well, right when COVID hit was when we got our first install.
What's the process for somebody, say they hear this podcast or what have you, they're interested in getting you in their schools? What do they need to do? I see you have a consultation. Yeah, they do a consultation, obviously.
Yeah, well, I just did it last week, actually. Drove down to 3 buildings in Mankato, Minnesota, and met with them. That's step 1. And then the second step would be to actually sign a cost assessment and design. And then we would walk their buildings and just basically make a custom design for their building. And then we install. And once materials are in place and we're ready to go, it's about, I'd say, 4 months, and the whole system would be installed, and we'd be out of there. And then we come back. I mean, we're not like a camera company where they just install on cameras and leave. You know, we're
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.
we're with them for a while. I mean, we come back annually and train their staff. We're also available for phone calls if you have our system. If you just want to ask a question about a threat you may have, or you need psychological help for a student, you know, we're with them. So it's not just a wham bam, thank you, ma'am, and we're out of there. No,
Right.
It's important to the turnover in schools too, to make sure they're trained properly. It's that's a big deal for us.
Yeah, like I said, I'm looking at your video here on your website, and it's pretty cool what you're doing, like with those little dry erase boards you're talking about. They cover the windows, and yeah, it's pretty intricate. So I'm pretty impressed, and the testimonials, and so far so good, huh? I'm assuming you're getting a lot of great successes.
Yeah. In fact, the first school we installed in is Christian Heritage Academy. Their waiting list has shot up 135% since we finished, because what they used to do, I mean, this is an $8,000 a year private school. They would have parents come in and they would ask, what are you doing for school safety? And they would say, we train run, hide, fight, or whatever. Now it's literally a 60-minute tour of all these different layers with ballistic panels and the magnets, and the parents are just floored. And their waiting list has shot up so much that they're actually they added on last summer in 2 phases. They have 2 more phases of add-ons coming up this summer to help accommodate the demand for students to go there.
And your goal is to be in all 50 states eventually, I'm assuming, right?
My goal is to not see dead kids in schools anymore. That's my
Of
goal.
course.
You know, that's a tall order to do, but it's a good problem to have. I just want to make sure that these kids and teachers and cops have a better chance than they did at Uvalde or Parkland, or you name the school. We just did a show. John's in here actually, and John's part of 3D too.
Does he want to come up? Does he want a mic?
I'm sure he does. He likes to talk.
I'll shoot him a mic, but go ahead, finish what you're saying, Jason.
Me and John and Joel Anu did a space a couple weeks ago where we broke down Uvalde. And I can say with confidence, and I know it's a big statement to make, but I can say without hesitation, with confidence, that there's not one child dead if Uvalde had the 3D response system. Not one.
So yeah, if you want to talk a little bit about that, so people kind of, kind of understand where you guys are coming from on this even further. And I'd like to welcome John. Hi, John, to the stage. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you for the mic. And yes, I do like to talk a lot. Jason tells me to shut up.
Well, welcome to the stage. But yeah, if you guys want to talk a little bit more about the Uvalde, and people, like I said, guys, if you have questions about it, please feel free to raise your hand. You are welcome to ask Jason or John any questions you may have. So go ahead, Jason and John. The floor is your guys's.
So,
Yep.
and John, correct me if I'm wrong with the times here, but I'm going to go off my memory. So the suspect's at his house. He shoots his grandmother, sends a text message to a friend in Germany, says he's going to go to a nearby school and shoot it up, takes grandma's vehicle truck, drives to the school, and gets in a crash just outside the school. Next door to the school, there's a what's it called, John? The morgue.
It was a funeral home.
Funeral home. 2 people from the funeral home come running out. Suspect gets out of the truck. He's now in a ditch and starts shooting at these 2 people. At the same time, a teacher who had their kids out at the playground, she hears the crash and comes in to investigate it as well. Suspect gets out, starts firing shots. The 2 people from the funeral home turn and run back. One actually falls. The teacher turns and runs back into the school. She goes into the school and she gets all of her kids in the school that were outside, and alerts a couple teachers that there's a guy with a gun outside. And I think that first alert was 11:33. somewhere in there. We'll just call it 11:33, 11:28, I think it was.
So it was
The suspect,
11:30 when she notified, and then he walks in the school at 11:33.
okay, I knew there was 3 minutes in there. So the suspect then walks to the front of the parking lot and starts throwing rounds in through the front of the building. The first 911 call is made then. He walks around the back side. 3 minutes later, free entry into the school, goes to the first room, and basically you got to barricade the suspect with hostages. And prior to this, the teachers did what they were trained to do, which was their version of run, hide, fight. Lights out, out of sight, be quiet. I don't know what the hell they called it, but same concept.
Lock lights
Suspect
outside.
goes in the first room. Well, that room's adjoining, so instead of 30 kids, you have 60 in there. Just walks right in, unimpeded, and they did the run, hide, fight. And you guys know what happens after that. The point of the whole story is, with our system, that first 911 call, that would indicate the first buttons depressed. All teachers then follow suit. Within 60 seconds, Uvalde went from target rich to target less in 60 seconds with police on the way. With our system, I don't care if that back door is open or not. The first door he comes across, windows are enhanced, the door is enhanced with 1,200 pounds of magnetic pressure on it. All those children are behind level 7 ballistic materials. They are in a safe zone. He can't get in, he can't shoot through the walls, and then the next room and the next room and the next room are all the same. So essentially, we've isolated the suspect to the hallways. The police have to interact there because he's going to interact with them. So take the shitty police response out of it, which was historically shitty. There's no kid dead because the suspect doesn't have anybody to shoot. Everybody, all the kids are safe. And if I miss anything, John, feel free to pipe in.
No, and I mean, and to go into the weeds a little bit more, we watched the testimony from a lot of the teachers that were shot and obviously lived, and some that, you know, were fortunate enough not to have been shot. But one of the biggest things that I took out of it was teachers were, number one, they were building a wall out of desk. In their mind, they're thinking that the desks are going to stop a bullet to protect the kids. Our system does that automatically. Secondly, two teachers were worried that their doors were not locked. One teacher who was in a room with, I think, one or two other teachers testified that one of the other teachers actually grabbed an extension cord and tied it to the door closure at the top of the door, thinking that that was going to keep him from coming in. And then one of the other teachers who was actually hit by shrapnel from a bullet or some bullets that come through the glass, she thought, oh my God, my door's not locked, and I need to get to my door to lock it with her keys. And she said in court, she's like, I knew I didn't have enough time to get to the door to lock it. I needed to get my kids hidden the best that I could behind a black curtain that was used to cover up like some books. So she couldn't even get to her door with the keys. And Miss Moran, the after school teacher that Jason was speaking of, when she was outside, she was asked about one of the systems that had been implemented at Uvalde that she had not even been set up on. I'm not going to name the name of it, but she had not even been set up on, so she couldn't even do the activation if she wanted to. And that system wasn't even activated till right before he come into school. So 3D response actually take in consideration what all was going on. I'm not saying it would have made it easier, but at least they would have had peace of mind knowing that their doors were locked. They were behind level 7 ballistic rated material. They had a safe space. Back to what Jason was saying, you got cover, concealment, communication. Those kids were safe, whether it took law enforcement 7 minutes to do something or whether it took them 77 minutes to do something. Those kids and teachers would have been safe, straight out.
Wow. Thank you for that breakdown. I appreciate that. Do any of you guys have any questions here for John or Jason regarding these systems? Please feel free to raise your hand, guys. We're here for you guys. They're bringing this to you. This is an option for somebody, if you know, that is maybe superintendent, principal of a school. Again, because it's all about the children. We talk about this often. It's all about the children, and we know these shootings have become more prevalent in the last few years than ever. So please feel free to ask a question if you guys have one to either one of these gentlemen. But in the meantime, guys, let's see. I don't think I have any more questions. Do you guys want to add anything else to it?
I can talk a little bit about some of the other frustrations that I've experienced. Probably another big one was my experience with Moms Demand Action. Elliot Ingen, who was the original author of the bill, he's a state rep out of Minnesota. He came down and toured it, and we walked out, and he looked at me, and he said, "Why in the blue hell isn't this in every damn school in this nation?" And I said, "That's a great question." And kudos to him. It was a first-term representative. He went back, and in 2 days, he wrote a bill on it. And while he's writing the bill, he asked me if I could get a hold of Moms Demand Action and see if I could give them a tour and get them to write a letter of endorsement. I said, yeah. So I reached out to the local chapter. I had 2 representatives from Moms Demand come down, gave them a tour. One was actually in tears. And I said, what do you think? And they said, this needs to be everywhere. And I said, well, would you mind writing a letter of endorsement with Moms Demand Action letterhead? At the time, I didn't know what this group was or what their affiliation was. I've never dealt with them before. And they said, absolutely. So they do. And I give that letter to Representative Ingen. He brings it over to the Democrats, and he's told, and this is his words, how the hell did you get this? This is our group. And he called me and told me that, and he was kind of taken back. And about 20 minutes after that, he gets a phone call from the national president of Moms Demand Action saying they retract the letter. And Representative Ingen said, why? And all she said was, we're neutral on this topic. We retract the letter. And he said, so let me get this straight. Moms Demand Actions, which promotes themselves as keeping kids safe, is neutral on a system to keep our kids safe. He says, does that about sum it up? And she just says, we're neutral on this topic. Fast forward, turns out that Moms Demand Action is a big supporter of the Democratic Party. Part of I think an NGO came out during the Doge investigation, and every dime they make basically goes towards fighting guns. So I got an eye opener into, I think, how the dirty laundry is actually washed through that interaction. I was just blown back by the actions that they took there.
So do you foresee in the future that you're going to have more struggles like this when it comes to things like that?
Yes. This topic is extremely political. I do believe that the wash, rinse, repeat is intentional. I also believe that every time there is dead children within 5 days, they're going to want to ban guns. And it's one of those things, don't let a tragedy go to waste for an agenda. And I'm seeing that, and that needs to stop. It's sickening. It's absolutely pathetic that we're resisting something that would minimize loss of life for a political argument.
Well, it just goes to show there's more exposure on how evil these people really are. So I do believe here in the future, Jason, it may, with everything that's going on and, how we have Trump doing what he's doing, I think it will get easier for you to get through this red tape with them. However, we got to go through all this crud that we're going through, right, to get to the other side of it for that cleanup. So I do have faith in what you're doing, and I do foresee you guys being in a lot of schools here in the very near future.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we could have given up numerous times, but we believe in it so much. And when we can take a group of 30 cops, an FBI active shooter team, special forces, and put them through scenarios or a walkthrough of the system and get that mindset. Those are the hardest people to teach. I did it for years, and I was one of them. They're the most type A, you can't change my mind. But to get that group of people, because they all share the same mindsets, to actually say this is a game changer, that's a big reason why we haven't give up on it, because we know it'll work. And I'm a big believer that not everything in life comes easy. You got to pay your dues, and I think we're in the process of paying our dues and learning all the hurdles that are out in this world that we're overcoming.
Well, and in your situation with this response system, you're gonna have a lot of hurdles because you just gave us a great example right there. It just goes to show you how embedded everybody is with and with whatever it is, whether they make it political or just the evildoers. Yeah, it's really unfortunate, and it's coming at the cost of our children.
And
Yes, it is.
if I can, one of the things that I ran into, and Jason told me I would run into this, and I didn't believe him. Yeah, keeping kids safe is political, and inevitably the cost always comes up, and it's about prioritization. And like Jason has said before, it's about changing the thought process. Just last week, I had a meeting with my county sheriff, and which is totally behind the system now that I've explained it, but he can only do so much. But what I found out is the cost got brought up, which we know that's going to come up, and it shouldn't be an issue, but it's an issue. And he's like, wow. He's like, yeah, they can't even raise the money to do this. And I said, well, Sheriff, with all due respect, I said, and I named the school here in my county. I said, this school last year spent $2.5 million to renovate their football field. And I said, that's more than what our system runs on average. And I said, so where's the prioritization? And he leaned back in the chair and he looked at me and he said, I've never thought about that, but you're right. The next day, I had a meeting with a lady that's running for school board in my county, and it got brought up again. And I know it's going to get brought up, but that was her thing too. And I asked this very same question. I was like, well, you got Reynolds High School that just, spent $2.5 million on renovating their football field. They didn't have a problem. They didn't have a problem coming up with that money. So where's the priorities? And she said, yeah, you're exactly right. And I said, this is one of the obstacles that we run into is, oh, well, we can't afford that. We don't know where we're going to get the money. We don't know, how are we going to get this money? Yeah, it's a great idea. How are we going to get the money? It's not a problem when they want to put in a swimming pool or a golf dome or renovate their football field. So yeah, and it's like I told somebody just yesterday. I said, why not do something now before it happens? I found out last week that you can set up Google alerts, and I put in some keywords and some key phrases. And I lie to you not, on a daily basis, and I think Jason has done his too. This is no joke, I'm getting probably in the average of 3 to 4 emails a day, every day, and each email has at least 5 or 6 incidents, whether it be a student was found with a weapon on campus, a student was found with a weapon inside the school, a weapon or weapons, plural, was found in the woods outside the playground. It's every day. And some of them are, yes, in my state. Some of them are in other people's states. But I knew it happens, but this is like, wow, this is too much. And when you look at that many alerts that are coming in, it is a matter of time, people. I hate to say it, but it is a matter of time. So why not be proactive instead of reactive? Because at the end of the day, when it happens, everybody's going to say, well, what do we need to do? What can we do? What could we have done? Multiple times on a certain Facebook page here in my county for a presentation. Ask me for a meeting. Ask me, I will come. I will come in and talk to my ears. Can't take it anymore. But nobody's taken me up on it. And I pointed that out yesterday. I was like, nobody has taken me up on this. But when it happens, I'm going to be the first one, and I'm going to be standing there with my sheriff, and I'm going to be on record. This could potentially have been prevented, or at least mitigate the loss of life. Nobody wanted to listen, but now you do. So it's about prioritization and get your shit together, people.
Amen to that. I have a question for you guys. Do you guys, so with part of your security system here, do you guys have the, what are they called? The, when you come in there, when you walk through the security thing, it detects if your metal detector. Do you guys install those as part of your system?
No.
No. And the reason for it is the amount of resources that it takes to operate those things. That's number one. Number two, they're not 100% effective. So if you really want to run metal detectors correctly, compare it to an airport. You're going to need at least a minimum of, I'd say, 6 to 8 teachers operating that, because if it goes off, now you've just tied up 2 bodies. Now those 2 bodies have to replace another 2. And they're so easy to get past. You put them at the main door. These are teenagers and kids. I mean, Christ, when I was in school, we'd skip a class and our buddies would let us in through some side door. And
True.
And then on top of it, if somebody really wants to do something, they're not going to care about the metal detection system. They're just going to walk through it. They might even have it exposed at that point. And again, it's not answering, okay, what's the response to that? What do we do now? At least with our system, we have a response. The kids can be safe. That provides no tools for the kids at all.
Agreed.
And to
Go ahead, John.
piggyback on that, so I know you've got a large audience. So a rhetorical question, but how many of you see on the news or breaking news that so-and-so is on the run, he's armed and dangerous, or she's armed and dangerous, do not approach, call law enforcement? We've all seen that. Why are we asking teachers to be law enforcement officers and ask them to do inside of a school what we're telling them not to do outside of the school? That's hypocritical. And it's like the sheriff brought up to me the other day, and he 100% agrees with what I said in our system. But he said, and Jason has said this before, you don't go to a podiatrist if you've got a toothache. We don't, as law enforcement officers, we don't tell educators how to educate. Why should educators be telling law enforcement officers or anybody that has experience in this field how to keep their kids safe? On the same note, you can't ask a teacher to go through all that schooling to be a teacher. And you all know they have an attachment to the kids. Why are you going to subject them to possibly using deadly force on one of their own students or another student that they see every day in the lunchroom or outside on the playground or out on a football field playing football on a Friday night? That just opens up, that's a whole different rabbit hole. But so why not leave it to the experts? Leave it to the law enforcement. So, and going back, why are we asking teachers to man metal detectors and do what we're telling them not to do when they get home at night?
Amen. I would really love to revisit this, everybody, you guys, and get more people in here. Obviously, I think Jason, you've been kind of making the rounds a little bit pretty recently, right? With doing a lot of podcasts, and I think I heard you say the other day you were on Blaze TV, or you're going to be.
They just reached out to me this morning. That's in the works, but yeah, I talked to I can't remember the guy's name, but he's an on-air guy on Blaze TV. But the funny part is I do spaces. Probably the first 2 weeks after Annunciation, my requests to come speak in a room were through the roof, and even news channels. And it's like the news is dry right now, right at this moment. after Annunciation, I got a phone call from, it was a local radio show, and he wanted me to be a guest speaker. And I said this on, I think it was on air actually. He said, "Thank you so much for coming. This is just horrific, what's going on here." And he kept, how emotional he was about it. And I said, "I love your passion. Where was that passion this past July 12th?" And he goes, "What happened on July 12th?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "That's the problem, is we only get passionate about this after a tragedy strikes. The time to actually be passionate about it
Is before.
when it's quiet."
Yep. So let's get loud and let's revisit this. So everybody, if you know anybody, principal, school superintendent, whatever, that might be something they're interested in, I would like to have you guys back on, Jason, and just keep your voices out there because, again, if you don't know, you don't know. But the more we share your message, the more it's going to get out. And I do think this is absolutely imperative to get in these schools, especially with what we've been seeing here in the past few years. But I do think it will get easier for you guys moving forward with this administration once we get through all the BS, if you will. But I love what you're doing, you guys. You guys are really doing God's work. And like I said in the beginning of this podcast, it is all about the children. Do you guys want to say anything in closing? And then let's try to maybe reschedule you guys coming back on. We'll do a follow-up.
I'd love to. The other thing, right now with session coming back in place, it is so easy for your state representatives to adopt the SHIELD Act. Reach out to your state rep and ask them, "Have you heard of the SHIELD Act? You should look at it, and we should adopt it in our state." All they got to do is change the state, and they use the same language. It's just a cut and paste form. But reach out to your state rep, and I'm actually going to be posting some public comments that's been made in the last month from Minnesota legislators that have toured the system. It's got a lot of support up here, and Minnesota is just one state in our nation. But that's one of their call to action you guys can do. Just call your state rep, tell them adopt the SHIELD Act for Minnesota.
So for those that don't know about the SHIELD Act, can you maybe briefly give them an idea what that is?
Yep, basically it's a building code, much like the fire code, that your building must have the following items installed from a tactical point of view, which basically outlines the cover, concealment, communication from our system with the intentions of making our schools as safe as possible in case an intruder comes in that is armed. So it's basically a building code.
That seems pretty common sense, right? To have a building code, just like a fire code, like that. Wow, that's great stuff. Thanks for sharing that. Go ahead.
My fear with that is history repeats itself. The leading cause of death to children in schools in the 1900s and it was fires. It took 95 kids to die for them to enact a piece of paper that was sitting around since the early 1920s. I don't want to see it take 100 kids dying and they say, "Okay, now we better do something."
Wow, that's crazy. I did not know that about the fire. Thank you for sharing that, Jason. All right, John, do you have any last thoughts? Did you leave us, Mr. John Cox?
No, sorry.
No, you're good.
I couldn't get my mic on. No, I don't. But thank you for allowing Jason and I on. And anything we can do, reach out to us.
Of course, and just remember, everybody, and Jason and John, this podcast isn't just being listened to here in the spaces. It will go out to my audience on all those other platforms. I'm everywhere, and it will get heard. So I appreciate you guys being here, Jason. Thank you, and I always love being in spaces with you. You crack me up all the time, and everybody here, thank you for joining. And please spread the word. Check out their website. And we will revisit with Jason and John. We'll get an update on how things are going, and we'll just keep pushing out this message because I do believe it is imperative for people, one, to know about it and start spreading the word. So thank you guys, and God bless you. You guys truly are doing God's work.
Thank you.
Thanks
Jason.
for the
space. You bet. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, John.
This space was downloaded via spacesdown.com. Visit to download your spaces today.